So lately I have been listening to all of Beethoven's symphonies again, and I was not supposed to do that. I was supposed to listen to metal music and full on albums so I can come up with my list of favorite albums of 2025. 2024. I thought that I want to go back to the basics and dive a little bit deeper into why I like him and to why I like some certain composers of the past, and also go back to one of my personal favorite composers, Bela Bartok, and he was a contemporary composer. So I started thinking how, from total structure and complete control of what we're doing, from the Renaissance to Baroque era to classical to Romanticism and then to contemporary and then to what we have today, and with the different subgenres, how one era is influencing the other one, and then how also we took all of the previous knowledge that we have of music, thanks to the fucking analysts, take that and include it into whatever music we are making now today. Maybe this is pop, maybe this is funk, or maybe this is metal. Metalheads tend to take inspiration from the wrongly said classical music, which means from the Renaissance until the contemporary eras, right? Some of the bands have a very high level of complexity in their music, and they have taken inspiration from this contemporary era that we ended up in the previous centuries. And exactly that increased complexity is one of the biggest ways that contemporary music has influenced today's music, especially metal. But complexity comes in many forms, and when it comes to harmony and rhythm, you can see how from the classical era to Romanticism, they switched up so many things. Their harmonic possibilities were so many at that point, and they were trying to break the boundaries and to get off limits a little bit, but still they made sense. Everything made sense. If you played a random note on there, it had somehow it was part of some augmented chord somewhere in the scale system, right? According to Schenker, it would all end up being just four fucking notes in the end. And also with the use of passing notes, of course, we can do whatever anyway. The same pattern kept being a thing when we transitioned from the Romantic era to contemporary, but with the element of breaking tonality. We didn't have tonality, so we had to grab from something that felt familiar because humans seek structure. So that's why we kept ourselves around rhythm, and we tried to recreate forms like the sonata form, for example, with just sounds and not tonality. We didn't organize sound the same way that we used to be. So this maybe is what changed after all, the organization and how we ended up organizing things. And then so many composers like Stravinsky, Ligeti, Sennberg, Bela Bartok, Boulez and Weber and Berg, they pushed these tonality boundaries and how complex your music would be rhythmically as well, and these ideas were adopted later by the metal community. One of the examples that I have on my mind is Isan's music and how he started with Emperor very tonal. He definitely expanded his sense of tonal center. Along with Meshuggah, for example, you know Meshuggah and how complex they are rhythmic wise, but also do they really have a tonic center? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I have to mention Opeth, even though they have tonal centers, they don't always follow up with each other, or they don't always follow the traditional Western European music system, exactly like Bela Bartok in that sense, because he also didn't follow the circle of fifths, for example, because he didn't want to. Somehow his music was excellent, just like Opeth. It happens with these two like so much. The polytonality along with some unexpected rhythmic patterns, they just make the whole music product in the end very complex, and it's very hard for someone then to analyze exactly what is going on in there, which makes it interesting for me at least. And then when you get to understand what is happening behind the sound, you get to be inspired by it and recreate it in some other ways, maybe in some other genres, or apply it just in a different way. The sense of dissonant was used very carefully by them Baroque musicians, by the classical composers. It always had to be resolved. With the Romantic era, we still need to resolve every little dissonant we listen to. Maybe it's an unexpected solution, but we still have to somehow find the salvation in the end, you know. With the contemporary music, we actually seeked those uncomfortable situations where we have a dissonant just to have a dissonant, just because we do this for the project to create the situation. We don't just want to entertain ourselves. Now, because music is considered an art after the 1800s, we also can do other stuff just for the sake of art. And this is also happening in especially black metal. It began at least happening there because, like in rock, we also had to resolve our dissonances. But then in black metal, because the point was to go against the rules and the whole point of black metal was a dissonance in society, we used a lot of dissonances. They keep doing this until today, and not just dissonances like somewhere in the piece, and we don't resolve them. This is a constant interval that exists in music here overall. Nowadays there are bands that they're using dissonances not just because they want to be aggressive, but it's also a weird combination of sounds that can tickle the ear a bit differently. It's not only considered aggressive, I want to say, it's considered avant-garde. Okay, maybe this is very, very obvious, but another way that contemporary music, and not just contemporary, I am guessing like classical and romantic as well, music has influenced the metal community nowadays is the fact that we have an actual subgenre that is called symphonic metal. And bands like Nightwish, Epica, Le Grand Guignol, which I made a video about as well, Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir. Although I have to say that when it comes to symphonic metal, I don't really see contemporaryism. I don't think that music from these bands could be more like Mahler. It could be more like Vivaldi. I mean, very, very different, of course. I'm not saying that they're writing like Vivaldi, but it's much more consonant, you know? It's much easier to the ear. And yeah, that's not even classical music, that's Baroque music. The other worth mentioning element that people took from the specifically contemporary era was the element of minimalism. Full-on operas from Philip Glass and tracks from Steve Reich and Terry Riley. I never remember the first name of that band. One example that is not connected directly, I would say, is the whole subgenre of doom metal or sludge, because we have the repetition, right? And we have the long periods of time that we only listen to one riff and it's very slow and you just have to be there. Like it comes to my mind, you know, Agaloch or Amen Ra. They have these slow build-ups, which is an element of the minimalist music back in the day. But I guess that in the minimalist music of the contemporary era, you had also more sudden changes of texture, which doesn't happen with sludge metal. So I'm not saying that this is the same. I'm saying that sludge metal took some ideas of the minimalistic side of contemporary music. Yes, that's correct. I don't want this video to be too long, so I think I'm gonna end my array of thoughts here. So write your thoughts about all this down below. I find this very fascinating. That's it for now, but thank you so much for watching. Bye!